So I saw a video recently that had this concept. I thought it'd be pretty interesting to try on myself. Best football players 2010 to 2020, pretty self-explanatory. You got 5 tiers. 1 to 10 obviously is the top 10, and 41 to 50 is the worst. But obviously, any players in these lists top players, so no disrespect. There's a few categories that I'm going to use in my head to judge the players. I think an important thing is that they were good throughout the entirety of the decade, playing at a top level. So if players were missing out through injuries, or maybe very good in the early part of the decade, but not so much in the second half of the decade, or vice versa, then I think that knocks their rating. I think someone who played at the top the whole decade deserves to be higher in the list. I think obviously club trophies play a part. Personal achievements as well is about finding the mix of both. And then just personal, not preference so much as just players that throughout the decade I have more memories of. And well, yeah, I guess it is personal preference as well. I'll put a few easy ones in first. I don't know if there are easy ones. It's going to be hard to kind of judge some of these players against each other because they're all very good. So I'm going to put them in, and then maybe at the end I might shift a few around, or I think someone's higher than maybe someone else who shouldn't be. But I'll just get a few names on the board first, just to whittle this out. Is that ter Stegen over there? I don't. Ter Stegen I called years ago, like 2012 time, that would be a top keeper. Scouted him when he was younger. When he was playing in Germany, goalkeepers I think is a tough one. I think Neuer's obviously I think the keeper of the decade. So anyone else is going to be lower than Neuer. I'm going to put a keeper in each category just to kind of give an idea. I mean, Neuer's the only keeper you could say has had a chance of winning the Ballon d'Or in 2013 or 2014. He won the Champions League one year, the World Cup the next year. Brick wall, iconic, and even at Schalke, that was this decade. He went to the Champions League semi-final in 2011. Famous game against Alex Ferguson's Man United, and then went to Munich and has been brilliant ever since. Still in the German national team now, so I think he'd be a top tier one. I think what other keepers are there? Jan Oblak, Casillas. How many keepers are there? I'm going to just stick the keepers together firstly, so I can have a better look at them. There's another one in there. Is that it? Sagan. I don't think I'm missing something obvious here. Okay. Well, there's a lot of players to look at in there, so it's hard to look at 50 players at once. Let's see. So, I think Casillas, he did win the Champions League in 2014 with Real Madrid. He's done well at Porto as well. But I think the second half of this decade, I mean, obviously he had a heart issue, so he's missed quite a few years. And he was already really iconic before 2010, even as a young kid at Real Madrid in the 2002 winning the Champions League. But he has won a World Cup in 2010 and a Champions League in 2014. Jan Oblak, statistically, at Atletico Madrid has been the top keeper in the world for a few seasons, but I think Atletico Madrid have had Courtois for quite a few years, so I think he's only been more recently in the Atletico Madrid team. I can't recall anything from him in the first half of the decade. I mean, I don't know what his pre-Atletico Madrid career was like. Obviously, I'm going to have to have a quick look to see where he was at before Atletico Madrid and when he broke into the first team, because I really don't think he did much in the first half of the decade. In the second half of the decade, he's been absolutely phenomenal at Atletico Madrid. Statistically, like I said, probably the best goalkeeper in in the world. He benefits from having obviously a fantastic Simeone drilled Atletico Madrid defence. He broke into the team in 2015, but he was playing for Benfica B in 2013. So yeah, the first half of the decade is just nothing on there. So that's why he's been the bottom half. If it was just the last 5 years, it'd be higher. I think CS as well suffers the same fate in the second half of the decade, but I think he did enough in the first half of the decade to be a bit higher than that. If we were talking about last 20 years, he'd be higher. Stegen as well, kind of probably be on the same level as Casillas. I think I can't say I'd put Stegen higher than Casillas because Casillas has got a Champions League and World Cup winner and his medals in his cabinet in the last decade. And Stegen at 2010 he wasn't playing to that level, but Casillas isn't playing at this. Yeah, I think I'll put Stegen alongside Casillas. I think it'd be harsh to put one above the other. Really, I think they're on the same level in the last decades. I mean, especially the last few years, Barcelona have been winning titles regularly, even though their team's a bit poorer, and he's definitely been a key part of that. Right, anyone? I'm going to put a few in there that are obviously top tier or obviously bottom tier. I think when you look at obviously top tier, well, Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously multiple Ballon d'Or winner, multiple Champions League winner, and multiple Champions League top goal scorer, trophies in Spain and Italy. And where's Messi? Yep, easy shout. Again, multiple time Champions League winner, multiple time Ballon d'Or winner. Don't forget the Euros for Ronaldo as well in 2016. But yeah, Messi and Ronaldo, they don't really need too much explanation. Anyone who's bottom tier, I think Marco Reus, just because of his injuries, he hasn't been consistent at any point in the decade. Obviously, he broke through as a young player in a Dortmund team under Klopp that was winning titles. German Player of the Year a couple of times. I think he's missed a lot because of injuries, and I think this is what I'm talking about in terms of my categories. I think that's one of the things that probably drops his rating a bit. I think if he was fit throughout the decade and had played more, and Dortmund had been a bit more successful since 2012, they'd be higher in the list. It's tricky. Everyone in the list is really good. I think Jordi Alba's probably bottom tier, isn't he? I don't think he's good. He's good, and he's won. Well, actually, I think Alexis Sanchez for his time at Man United has to be in the bottom tier. He was so bad at Man United. This is what I'm talking about. A player can have really high peaks in a decade, and obviously you look at Alexis Sanchez at Barcelona. Was he still at Udinese in this decade as well? I'm not sure if he was at Udinese. Yeah, he will have been. So even at Udinese, and then at Arsenal as well, he had some brilliant moves of form. I think his Man United time was so bad, it just tanks his rating. But yeah, I think Jordi Alba as well. I'm looking at the other faces here, and there's not many I'd put Jordi Alba ahead of. He's been very, very good, but he's been very, very good. But he's an attacking left back in a Barcelona team that usually dominates games. And some of his link-up play with Messi was phenomenal, but he came in to replace Eric Abidal, and I don't think he was an improvement on Abidal. So I don't think I can put him too high in this list. If I wouldn't rate him as high, even rate him as high as a player he replaced. So yeah, I think Jordi Alba is probably bottom tier in there. Let's find someone in the middle. Who's an obvious middle tier player in here? He's high. Again, there's a few players that are affected just by not being consistent throughout the whole decade. Well, there is another keeper, Courtois. I can't believe I missed him. He's on the same level as Casillas and Stegen, I think. did really well at Atletico Madrid for those few years when he was there. Good at Chelsea, good at Real Madrid, Belgium. Really solid goalkeeper. A few trophies in his cabinet. It'd be harsh to put any of these three above each other. I think they're in the right spot. Modric has won a Ballon d'Or, so surely he would have to be top tier as well. It'd be harsh to leave Modric out of the tier. He's won a Ballon d'Or, wouldn't it? I mean, he's won the Champions Leagues at Real Madrid as well. Was he there for all four? And even at Tottenham, he was really good. Like, really good at Tottenham in the Premier League. Very enjoyable player to watch. You could tell he had class to him. And it's Croatia 2018. I think Modric has got to be top tier. I think if you win a Ballon d'Or in a decade with Messi and Ronaldo, you've got to be top tier. Let's find a solid middle tier. Gerard Piqué. Gerard Piqué, I think. A couple of Champions Leagues. Solid defender throughout the decade. Consistently in a very good Barcelona team. If you're dropping off your quality there, you're going to get dropped. So yeah, he's solidly in there. Solidly in the middle. Tricky. See who's Dani Alves. I think I'll put him on the same level as Piqué. I think he brilliant at Barcelona, Juventus, PSG, top right back, probably best in the world for a period of time. I don't think. Oh no, he ended the decade at Sao Paulo. No disrespect to the Brazilian league, but that probably knocks him down a peg. I think every other player I put in the list so far, as far as I'm aware, is still playing top. Anyone who's I put in the list is still playing top level, who's at least on the same level as him or higher. There's a few players that are lower than him that aren't, but that's why they're lower. I think Dani Alves has ended the decade in the Brazilian league. So, and part of it is being consistently at the top, but he was probably the best right back in the world for a few years and was brilliant at Barcelona, Juventus, and PSG. So, I think middle tier is fair. Ribery and Robben as well. So good in the early half of the decade. Injuries maybe affected them a little bit in the second half of the decade. Ribery, I don't know where he is now. Is at Fiorentina last time I checked. And Robben is in the Dutch league. So there was a period where there were two of the 5 best players in the world. Unbelievable wingers. But I just can't put them in the top tier because they weren't great for the entirety of the decade. They ended the decade in lower teams than the top teams. So I'm going to have to put them here. Now, at least, because even just putting them there, I'm questioning that. But there's going to be some tough choices to make. But phenomenal. 2013, these two one of the best pairs of wingers you'll ever see in the same team. And not even just 2013, for quite a lot of the decade. But they've just ended the decade in the last few years having lots of injuries and put down to clubs that aren't top tier. Wayne Rooney will be another one affected by that. Brilliant for the first couple of years in the decade. England's all-time scorer. A couple of Premier League titles with Man United in the decade, but it was 2005 to 2015 or something like that, then Rooney would be higher. But where's he been? DC United, the MLS, Derby County. Finished the decade in the Championship, and last fight, it'd be hard to put him in the bottom tier. But when you look around, his second half of the decade isn't anything amazing. He was playing at a Man United team that wasn't as good as it was. He went to Everton for a year, did all right. Couple of nice goals. A couple of years in the MLS, did well. The Derby County, I think the second half of the decade especially hurts him. If we're talking about players who've been consistently very good throughout the decade, I think Benzema maybe is underrated in that regard. I'm going to definitely put him in the second tier for now. I'm going to consider him top tier. He's always been up there. There's always been talk of who's Real Madrid's next big striker they're going to sign. But they haven't needed to. He's always kept it up. So he can get in. I'm going to put him in second tier for now. Contender for top tier. Sergio Ramos, iconic in the decade. World Cup winner with Spain, Champions League winner, captain of Real Madrid, top centre back of the world probably for a period of time, and he's been consistently at the top level throughout the decade. He started the decade as a World Cup winner, and he's still a crucial part of Real Madrid's defence. That when he's not playing, they really miss him. He's been injured a little bit this season. But prior to that, he's not really missed much time as far as I'm aware. He's breaking records, even goal scoring records. I think he's scored more goals in the league as a defender than anyone else. He's got to be top tier, and he got to be top tier. I'll put him in top tier for now, Ramos. I mean, it's hard to argue against Lewandowski being top tier as well. Even at the beginning of the decade, he was banging him in at Dortmund as they were winning league titles under Klopp. He's gone to Bayern Munich. He won the Champions League. Top scorer in Europe for quite a few years. Especially recently, his numbers have been unbelievable. It'd be hard to leave Lewandowski. I can't think of another striker. I can't see another striker in the last decade who's been consistently scoring goals at the level he has, and he has the trophies to back it up as well. So I think he's got to be top tier. It was a tricky one because he won the league at Milan in 2012. He has obviously won titles at PSG, broken their all-time scoring record until it was broken by Cavani, and won a few trophies at Man United. He's finished the decade back at AC Milan, contending for the Serie A title at the age of 39 or something. I think I've said that your rating is helped by being consistently playing at the top level, and I think just playing in LA Galaxy for a couple of years probably knocked him down a little bit. So I'll put him in second tier. Iconic, and he's still. I don't think those couple of years in the MLS should take anything away from how good he is or how good he still is. Players go to the MLS and then they just after that, that's it. But he actually came back to Europe, playing for Milan, and he's still doing really well. Who's that? Who's that? It's quite small, that picture. I'm trying to figure out who that is. Who is that? He's got the captain's armband on. He must be alright. Am I missing something? It's not Xavi, is it? I can't even tell who that is. I'll come back to him. If I can't recognise him, they can't be on the list. But I don't want to disrespect someone. Is that Xavi? Quite blurry as well. I might just say, for the sake of argument, like Xavi, he's got the captain's armband on it. I can't imagine who else it would be. I'll come back to that. Puyol, I think he's just hindered by the fact, obviously, he won the World Cup in 2010 and 2011, but he retired not too long after that, actually. What year did Puyol stop playing for Barcelona? Was it like 2013 or 2014? So I think it'd be hard to put in the top tier, because even although he was absolutely phenomenal the first couple of years of the decade, 2014. It feels hard putting him in bottom tier, but he didn't play for the entirety of the second half of the decade, so it'd be hard to put him up there. Any higher than bottom tier, I think. When I'm looking around at the other faces as well, can you put Puyol bottom tier? I'll put him second bottom for now. But he really is hindered by the fact he didn't play for 6 years of the decade. Xabi Alonso as well. I'm looking at a few players that didn't make it to the end of the decade, and that just affects the rating a little bit. Xabi Alonso, obviously, again, World Cup winner with Spain 2010, Champions League winner with Real Madrid 2014, leagues at Bayern Munich. And 2017 he stopped playing. I'll put him alongside Puyol just because and Philipp Lahm as well. Philipp Lahm, phenomenal, best right back. Actually, Philipp Lahm, I don't know if I can put him. I'm gonna have to put him alongside Dani Alves because it's hard to say which is better out of these two. He, Philipp Lahm probably would stop playing around 2017 as well. Champions League winner and World Cup winner in 2013 and 14. But the best tackler of probably I've ever seen. Really would be harsh to leave him out. When did he stop playing for Bayern Munich? 2017 as well. But I think the difference between him and Xabi Alonso is as great as Xabi Alonso was, Philipp Lahm was the best player in the world at his position. I can't drop him lower than Dani Alves. So yeah, I think middle tier for Philipp Lahm's fair. Yeah. Luis Suarez, it's probably got to be top tier. He's one of the few players outside Lionel Messi and Ronaldo to get the European Golden Boot. Obviously won a Champions League at Barcelona. Started the decade at Ajax. Coming up to the 2010 World Cup, he scored like 49 goals in a season, went to Liverpool, won a Premier League Golden Boot there. 2014, he was absolutely phenomenal. As Liverpool came second, but he dragged them to second. Went to Barcelona, was outscoring Messi at one point. And he's finished the decade at Atletico Madrid, who were top of the league at the end of the decade, and he was regularly scoring. So yeah, top tier Luis Suarez has got nearly. I think Vidal's probably bottom tier. He's played in a lot of great sides, but I wouldn't say he was ever a contender for best midfielder in the world. Aguero is going to be arsed, but just because he's missed a lot with injuries, he's second. Atletico Madrid, who started the decade out, was phenomenal there. Obviously, has an iconic debut at Man City, best debut I've ever seen in the Premier League. Obviously, the iconic 2013 goal to win the league title. He's Man City's all-time top scorer. But he finished the decade had been not scored in the Premier League for a year or something. And it's been riddled with injuries throughout his time at City. He's just never consistently had a few years where he's banged in 20 plus. Like he'll get one season where he gets 25 and then the next season he'll get 10. And that hinders him a little bit. And I don't think I can put him in the top tier just for that. Hmm. Try and get someone. Let's try and find a solid mid tier one. Who's solidly mid tier in this? Diego Godin, I think he's solidly mid tier. Maybe where is he nowadays? Where is he now? Diego Godin. He's dropped down a level, I think, towards the end of the decade. But there was a point where I rated him as the best defender, arguably best centre back in the world. Great to watch at the 2018 World Cup. Won a league title with Atletico Madrid in 2014. Just consistent for he's at Cagliari for the last few months of the decade. Before that, he was at the Europa League final in 2020. Actually, he won it, so still playing at that top level, even in 2020, and just such a crucial part of Simeone's famous defence for the entire decade. Won trophies there, 2 Champions League finals as well. A crucial part of Simeone's famous and statistically phenomenal defence. A real staple of the decade. Solid mid-tier, Diego Godin, very good player, one I rate highly personally. This is slowing down a bit now because I'm struggling to. They're all very good players, so some of them are hard to rate above the others. Who else could you say is? I think this is slowing down a bit. It's not the sharpest pacing at the moment. I think Sergio Busquets is probably a solid mid one as well. Yeah, the early part of the decade was crucial in that phenomenal Barcelona team. What there's a quote from I can't remember who the quote was from now. It's from the old Real Madrid manager who said, "If you watch the game, you don't see Sergio Busquets. If you watch Sergio Busquets, you see the whole game." Sums him up perfectly. I think he's had poor short, like short runs of poor form, but he's never really been dropped from the Barcelona team. He's a crucial part of their style, especially when they were playing their best football. Is he still getting in the Spain team? Is he still getting in the Spain team at the moment? Yes. Yes. So, I've not seen. I haven't watched Spain a lot recently, actually. I know he's obviously still getting in the Barcelona team. His passing and his ability to fool players with where he's going to pass it. He could. He's like Houdini sometimes getting out of tight spaces. Played 4 times in 2020, 5 times in 2019. It was a feature at the last World Cup. So yeah, he's still getting games for Spain. He's played twice this year as well. So he's still playing for Spain regularly. So yeah, solid throughout the decade. If you're going to pick a best defensive midfielder of the decade, it's probably going to be Busquets. David Villa is probably hurt by not being strong in the second half of the decade. I don't remember seeing him in a while. What year did David Villa? Obviously, Billy again. I keep saying Spain 2010, Barcelona 2011, World Cup, Champions League. He was the number one of that category. And those players have got enough credit in the first 2 years of the decade. But he spent 4 years at New York, yeah, and finished in Japan. Played in Australia. Even by 2014, he was playing in Australia. So it's probably got to be bottom tier only. Playing the Aussie League, he got bottom tier. Bale's got to be up there, and he. But then I think the last few years at Madrid, after that overhead kick in 2018, he didn't really play in 2019. And even though he had a few good games recently, the last couple of years of the decade weren't particularly strong. But he was the world's most expensive transfer. He was a crucial part of some of Real Madrid's Champions League winning sides, alongside Ronaldo and Benzema up front. And even at Tottenham, he won 2 PFA Players of the Year in the decade as well. And he was part of Wales' best tournament performance of all time. He's what he's done for Wales in the last decade can't be understated either. I'm going to put him second tier for now, Bale. Second tier for now. I think maybe his last 18 months at Real Madrid after that overhead kick and his first few months at Tottenham at the end of 2020 might hit him a bit. But if you're going from 2010 to 2018, Gareth Bale was absolutely phenomenal, top player. I think Yaya Toure again, it's probably affected by not having the full decade to be judged on. 2014, he was the best midfielder in the world, probably, for a season, at least, definitely in the Premier League. And that alone is probably enough to not put him in bottom tier. He was still at Man City in 2018, actually. I didn't realise it was that recent that he'd gone. But he finished a decade playing in China. But his 2014 season is enough to give him a little bit of credit not to be bottom tier, I think. It's harsh, but I'm going to have to make some harsh decisions now. I just don't think Rakitic has ever been the top midfielder in the world, and he had a few years at Barcelona where he was part of a very good team that were winning trophies, and he was one of the best players in the team. I think consistently throughout the decade, he's not a player for most of the decade that I've had in my mind as one of the best midfielders in the world. When I talk about best, I mean like top 2, 3, 4 midfielders in the world. I don't think throughout the decade he's consistently been at that level. I mean, he was part of the shock team that got to the Champions League semi-final, and then obviously did well at Seville and Barcelona. So he's not, and obviously 2018 for Croatia as well. Captain at Seville. They won the Europa League as well at Seville. Champions League. Maybe I'm giving him a bit of disrespect there actually, because he's a player of the decade. He's not someone who was good for the first half or good for the second half. I think he was very good throughout, and he finished the decade still playing at top level at Seville. Yeah, I think bottom tier will be harsh actually. I think I'm going to put him here for now. Talked myself out of that one. Is that Varane? I think Varane. Yeah, Champions League at Real Madrid, and World Cup with France. Very consistent. I remember him breaking through when he was young at Real Madrid, and he's been good ever since. I think the middle tier is really for like the best defenders or defensive midfielders at the moment. But they're kind of the best of the best of the best in that position. And I think he deserves to be alongside the likes of Diego Godin and Gerard Piqué in terms of the performances throughout the decade. It's harsh not to put Iniesta top tier because of how good he was in 2010. He was top 3 Ballon d'Or. Obviously, again, that Barcelona Spain team. Champions League 2015. He's so good. It's so harsh not to put him top tier, but he did finish the decade in Japan. I'm going to put him second tier. Can I put Iniesta second tier? If it was like 2008 to 2018, he'd be top 3, 5. But I think finishing the decade in Japan, I think this is what I'm talking about. The top players have to be consistent from 2010 to 2020, consistently playing brilliantly, consistently playing that team at the top level. And yeah, when you talk about players that fit that description, I think it was a couple of years, like I say, if it's 2008 2018, Iniesta would be top tier, but I think if we're talking 2010 to 2020, then Toni Kroos is top tier. Even the other day in the Champions League against Liverpool, he had an absolutely phenomenal performance. I'm going to put him next to Modric just because of how good they've been at Real Madrid together in the midfield. But even for Bayern Munich, he was obviously. I don't understand why Bayern Munich got rid of him, but he was part of the Champions League team that won the part of the team Bayern Munich team that won the Champions League in 2013, World Cup winner in 2014, Champions League winner in 2017, 18, 19. Brilliant passer. His vision and passing is just phenomenal. I probably don't maybe haven't appreciated for the last decade Toni Kroos as much. Maybe I don't think I'm the only one who I wouldn't say he's underrated Toni Kroos, but I think when you look back, you kind of realise just how phenomenal he actually has been throughout the decade. How many spaces have got to go top tier? I've got 2 spaces left. I think one of the spaces has got to go to David Silva. So, so brilliant at Man City throughout the entire decade. Even in the early part of the decade, I thought he was underrated. Then it came to a point where he was just no one was underrating him anymore. He was just so obviously good. And then he only left Man City in the summer, and was still playing at Sociedad, playing in Europe, even at the end of the decade. Class midfielder. Class midfielder. Maybe, yeah, he up there with the best midfielders ever in the Premier League, and just so consistently brilliant throughout the entire decade. Every season, almost every game of every season. And I haven't seen any much of what he's done at Sociedad, but obviously they're still playing in Europe. He was still playing in Europe at the end of the decade, so he hasn't dropped a level. Yeah, definitely deserves to be top tier. Only got one top tier space left now. Doesn't necessarily have to be someone down here. It could be someone in 11 to 20. I'm going to need a couple of players that are obviously not top, obviously bottom tier. It's hard to see any bottom tier players that are left. Is that not Varane? Who is that? Is that Casemiro? And that's Varane. That's Casemiro, isn't it? That's not Varane. Okay. Oh, that's what these are. Varane up there. I'm glad I spotted that actually. That's Varane. It's Casemiro. Well, Casemiro has been a crucial part of Real Madrid's midfield. That they won the Champions League 3 times in a row, alongside Kroos and Modric. He really is like the anchor in that midfield. But he's just no. It would be harsh to put him bottom tier, really. But he did spend the first part of the decade in the Brazilian league. I think that's enough to put him bottom tier. I need to find some players for bottom tier, and he spent the first 3 years in the Brazilian league. And I'm like, no disrespect to the Brazilian league, but the players in the higher tiers they need to be at the top level throughout the entire decade. And even when he first broke through at Real Madrid, he really didn't make an impact straight away. I think recently it's been obvious how good he is in that midfield with Kroos and Modric. He's such an important part of the team. For what he offers defensively. But someone's got to go in the bottom tier, and I think just his first part of the decade being in the Brazilian league, and he didn't really break through at Real Madrid like instantly. It kind of took him a while really for his reputation to build. So I think that goes against him. I think Mo Salah as well. I mean, if it was last 5 years, he'd be way up here somewhere. But first half of at Chelsea, he was rubbish in the team. He was playing in was it the Swiss league? Was it the Swiss league he was in Salah at Basel as well. And Basel had a good team then. Basel had a good team, and they were contending in Europe. But he's still the Swiss league, even though they're doing well in the Europa League, and he's obviously doing well there. I think the first half of the decade is what goes against him in this ranking. I think if he was like last few years at Liverpool, obviously he's been phenomenal, the Egyptian king. But I think up till 2015, his CV wasn't really that impressive. He just actually started the first 2 years of the decade. He was playing in the Egyptian league. So that goes. If he's playing as a couple of years in the Egyptian league, a couple of years in the Swiss league, can't break into the Chelsea team, on loan in the Italian league, and not really having too much of an impact until he went to Roma, and that was by like 2016 time by then. So I think his first half of the decade is not good enough to be any higher than that. Pretty sure that is chubby. Yeah, definitely chubby. Got more space in the middle tier. Who's a solid middle tier player here? I think if we're going to go for the themes of defenders and stuff like that, I think maybe Marcelo could go middle tier. He's just absolutely phenomenal at Real Madrid. Defensively maybe not the best, but even at a time when we had Cristiano Ronaldo, whenever I watched Real Madrid, anytime I'd always have my eye on Marcelo. If I was watching Real Madrid with someone else in the pub or whatever, I'd always say, "Oh, keep an eye on Marcelo." For 90 minutes, you wanted to watch him. Obviously, he's still at Madrid now. He's not like playing every single game, but he's still at Real Madrid. But yes, it's just so class to watch, and obviously an important part of their trophy-winning teams, the Champions League winning teams. And yeah, playing at Real Madrid for the entire decade, and I'll say it again, maybe not. I don't think he was ever the best left back in the world in terms of his defensive, what he added defensively to the team, but just so class on the ball and just so good to watch and enjoyable to watch and such a big part of such a great team. Yeah, I put him in that middle tier. He's ended up being quite a defensive tier. That. Yeah, we've got some more spaces in the middle tiers that we can put players in. I think Di Maria's got to be pretty high. He had a season at Man United which wasn't great, but otherwise, I mean, his time at Benfica. Talk about top of the holes, and maybe the Portuguese isn't a top league, but he was a well-known player across Europe, even at Benfica. His reputation was at Benfica. Everyone knew Di Maria was going to make the move up. I know I did. I remember him quite vividly at Benfica, and it's not that often. Like the wingers at Benfica now, or Porto now, or Lisbon now, players who come out of the Portuguese league, and then they just immediately you realise how good they are. Like Rafinha and Bruno Fernandes recently from Sporting. But then when they're in the Portuguese league, their reputation is not as big, and you maybe go under your radar till they leave to a bigger team. But Di Maria wasn't like that. Everyone knew even at Benfica how good he was. Part of Real Madrid's Champions League winning team in 2014. And then yeah, obviously at Paris, I know he has been injured the last few years a little bit, but he's still getting a consistently high amount of games, and he really is such a creative player. His one season at Man United wasn't great, but I think a lot of that stemmed from off the pitch issues. Still think he actually did all right on the pitch. I think he just left a bad taste in Man United fans' mouth. I don't know the full details. I think he was at Real Madrid and he wanted to go to PSG, but he went to Manchester United for a year because PSG couldn't buy him that year, and he was obviously already had his eyes on PSG, and I think he didn't help his. He wasn't particularly liked by Man United fans, but I think he still played all right. And outside of that, he has a really strong decade. He's got to be high tier, Di Maria. Van Dijk was top 3 Ballon d'Or. Put him in that middle tier. He didn't start the decade very strongly. But even at Celtic in the Scottish League, he was still on my radar. He was very, very clearly the best player in Scotland, even when he was playing there. Maybe I've put him too highly if I've dropped other players because of how they were doing in the first half of the decade. Let me see where he started at. I'm going to skip a phone charge. Nice. Yeah, so I've dropped other players for being not good enough throughout the entire. Yeah, I have to put my phone in charge. Other players lower rated because they haven't been brilliant the whole decade, playing at top level the whole decade, and he only moved to Liverpool in 2018. So before 2018, he wasn't. He was at Celtic, Southampton, and Groningen. But so obviously that he didn't play for Holland until 2015. So he spent the first half of the decade not even an international footballer. But like I say, I remember how good he was at Celtic, and that's 2013 to 2015. So you probably think it's unfair to put him up there when he hasn't been consistently brilliant throughout the decade. He only moved to Liverpool, top team in 2018. He's only been playing for a top team for 2 years of the decade. What worked in his favour is that he was actually top 3 Ballon d'Or, and the only defender in the decade to be top 3 Ballon d'Or, so that kind of balances it out, I think. Obviously, one of the categories is trying to be you want players to be consistent throughout the whole decade. That knocks him down. But then at the same time, personal achievements, being a top 3 Ballon d'Or as a defender, I don't know the last time that happened. Cannavaro 2006 probably. So I think middle tier, that alone you could argue higher tier top 3 Ballon d'Or in the decade. So I think middle tier it evens itself out. I think in the same breath, I think there's a few players that struggling with a few of these left now. I think if I put Van Dijk up there, even though he didn't have a particularly strong first few years of the decade, he had a personal achievement, a solo, one personal achievement. Obviously, he's won the trophies at Liverpool that he's won. They won their first league title in 30 years, and he's won the Champions League as well. I think on that basis, if I can put De Bruyne up there, who didn't have a phenomenal first half of their decade. This is the trouble with a few of these names left. I think I want to. Van Dijk obviously was nominated for Ballon d'Or, top 3, so that solo achievement can push him up a bit. But there's a couple of players left that weren't great throughout the entire decade. When I think of the 2010 to 2020, there's a few players that I can't. Fabregas for one. When did he retire? I'm gonna have to check when he stopped playing, because obviously brilliant, one of the best assisters Premier League's ever seen. He's at Monaco. I've really not seen much of him at Monaco, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. He'd been off my radar. Fabregas. He's playing regularly there at Monaco. He's playing regularly at Monaco. He had an injury, a couple of. Well, I'll say regularly. He's playing half the games. He was really good at Chelsea. Won the Premier League there. He was really good at Barcelona. No, I thought he has been more consistent throughout the decade than I actually realised. And a top assister as well. I'm gonna go. Honestly, he has been consistent throughout the decade. I don't know what it is that is. I'm gonna put him middle tier. Because I'm gonna put middle tier. I think brilliant assister. He's just been off my radar the last few years at Monaco, and maybe that's more on me. But I think even in the last couple of years at Chelsea, I don't think he was playing at the top level. I think you'd notice the drop in quality in his last year or two at Chelsea. I think you'd already started to see the decline. This is talking about players consistently playing at the top level, and even though he was playing at the top level, I think you could visually see his decline at Chelsea, and I think that goes against him. But yeah, I think middle tier is fair for him, I guess. Anyone who's been at lower tier, Paul Pogba. I think he's probably just too inconsistent at club level. At Man United, at Juventus, he kind of got famous for his worldy goals, but I think he was helped by such a class midfield he had around him as well. So in the first couple of years, he was just in the Man United youth team till about 2013, and then he went on a free. So he wasn't even good enough for the Man United team in the first part of the decade. They actually bought out Paul Scholes out of retirement when he was like 36 instead of picking him. So I think that goes against him as well. Could potentially be bottom tier actually. You know what? He was the world's most expensive player, so I think I'll put him. Well, one of these has got to go bottom tier, and there's a few I'm looking at right there that just can't be bottom tier. Now this is quite harsh actually because I've liked him for quite a few years. I even remember him at Saint Etienne in France in like 2012, 2013. So his reputation was big even before he was playing at a big club, and he's been so consistent at scoring. At Dortmund, he was fighting for golden boots in the German league most years. Obviously, he was fighting against Lewandowski, so he wasn't winning them. And even at Arsenal, he's had a couple of really like 20 plus seasons in the Premier League. But he's not been phenomenal every year. He's had seasons at Arsenal where he's not. He hasn't really had bad seasons at Arsenal. I think his only bad season is this season. I think he's ended the decade in poor form, which has gone against him. And I think he started the decade in poor form. It took him a while to get going at Saint Etienne. It's probably half to put him bottom tier. But when I look at the players left, he's got the goals. But like I say, he's ended the decade in poor form, and he didn't start it at a high level. So he actually hasn't really won anything when I think about it. Maybe he won a German Cup, but Aubameyang, I think he's got to be bottom tier. Feels quite harsh. But there's tough decisions to be made. Tough decisions have to be made. If we're going to say that's Xavi, I think Xavi. The only thing that goes against Xavi is that he obviously. I mean, well, I'm going to say it again. 2010 World Cup, 2011 Champions League. The best passer ever, maybe, best vision ever. Just so crucial to how brilliant that Barcelona team was. That game against Man United in 2011, he just pulled all the strings and he outclassed Man United so much in that game, and a lot of that was down to Xavi. But he stopped playing for Barcelona in 2015, and he was playing in the Qatar League for half a decade. So he can't be any higher than here. Maybe he might drop to bottom tier based on that. No. I'm not. I can't put Xavi bottom tier because of what he did in the first half of the decade. But playing the guitar for the second half of the decade goes against it. So I think that's fair. All right. Someone else has got to go in that 31 to 40 category. Okay, it's harsh. It's harsh because of how good he's been recently. But Mbappe wasn't even playing until like 2015, 2016. You got to remember how young he is. So just not even playing for the first half of the decade because he was a kid. I think he can't really get much higher than here. Last couple of years, I remember his breakthrough season at Monaco. They played in the Champions League against Man City in like 2017, and he was still only like 17 at the time, and he was, he stole the show, and you could see straight away how good he was, how good he was going to be, and then obviously won the World Cup at France. He was a crucial part of that game against Argentina in the second round. Is quite iconic. Obviously, there's a couple of French leagues under the belt. Second most expensive transfer in the world. So if it was the last 5 years, he'd be up here. But just not playing. Just not. This is nothing against him. He just was too young to be playing in the entire first half of the decade. So I can't really put him much higher than that. We've got four spaces left, and we've got four very good players. To put any of those in mid tier, I think would be quite harsh. They all are quite iconic within the decade. Who am I gonna not put? Who am I gonna put mid tier there? Out of those four, I think it's probably harsh, but I'm leaning towards Griezmann. He had some phenomenal couple of seasons at Atletico Madrid. He wasn't there when they won the league, but he was there for the two Champions League finals and was a really crucial part of that attack. I don't think he's really had a massive impact at Barcelona. He hasn't. He's only scored 17 in 2 seasons. He was really. He had a couple. If we're basing it on 2-3 year peak, Griezmann will be higher. But when we're talking about just the entire decade, I don't think he took over like he was at Sociedad for the first part of the decade. I don't remember really him being on my radar there. And then obviously his couple of years at Atletico Madrid were absolutely phenomenal. But I think the last couple of years at Atletico Madrid he wasn't as playing as at higher level. And Barcelona, I don't think he's had a massive impact. So I think mid-tier is fair for Griezmann. We got one player left for the top tier out of these three. I think again, we're talking about what players have done in the first half of the decade. I think Jose Mourinho wasn't even picking him in 2014 at Chelsea, so he couldn't even get into the Chelsea team. Before that, he was playing in the Belgian league. I think last few years, obviously, he's been so good. He's breaking Premier League records for assists, crucial parts of Man City's 110 Premier League title, Player of the Year, Premier League Player of the Year. But I think the first half of the decade goes against him. Really, he just wasn't playing at that top level, and he couldn't even get the Chelsea team. I'll change that Wolfsburg. That was like 2014-15 time. He had a phenomenal season at Wolfsburg. I'm not sure if he won Player of the Year in the German league. He might have done. But I think he's been good enough at Man City and Wolfsburg to be high up there, and Belgium for the 2018 World Cup. But like I said, I think the first half of the decade goes against him. But I mean, still, he's still a really high tier. I don't think. I think that's fair. Okay, we got one space left in the top tier. I think up till 2019, Hazard was on course to be top tier. I just think his time at Real Madrid has been such a disappointment. He's been such a massive flop since he left. He's barely played, he's been injured, and when he's played, he's not really had an impact. It's been a really bad signing, and he's finished the decade with that reputation. Before that, maybe the best, most exciting player in the Premier League at Chelsea, played Chelsea's best player for many number of years, didn't really have any drops in form at Chelsea. And even before that, he won the French League with Lille in a very famous team. And was brilliant there as a youngster, and everyone in England wanted Hazard, and he was big time when Chelsea signed him. He lived up to the reputation. I just think he left Chelsea after the Europa League win in 2019, and if he'd had a brilliant 2020, he'd be top tier, but he'd been so bad at Real Madrid, I just can't justify putting him top tier. And yeah, that leaves my boy Neymar. It's good. Neymar's got to be, I think Neymar, when you think about players that have defined the decade, Neymar is definitely, he broke through at Santos around 2010. He won the South American Champions League. I remember him in the Club World Cup playing against Messi around that time. Such an exciting player at Santos. There's never before ever seen a player in the Brazilian league who has had such a reputation in England. Even as a young kid in Brazil, there's plenty of good young kids in Brazil now, but none had caught the eyes like Neymar. Went to Barcelona, was just part of that 2015 Champions League winning team, strike force of Messi, Neymar, and Suarez, which is maybe the best front three you'll ever see. And then PSG, he's been in and out because of injuries and stuff, but when he's in, he's just so good. And he's such a. He's been, like I say, he really is a defining player of the decade. And when he's at his best, there's not much better. And even yesterday in the Champions League, still played brilliantly. Really 2 good assists. He's got to be top tier. And there we go. This is actually turned out to be just about an hour, which is actually convenient timing. I'm looking at the list. I think it's pretty fair. I'm trying to think if anyone probably deserves to be higher or lower. I mean, Oblak last couple of years has been really top keeper. Marco Reus, like I say, he's really consistent throughout the decade. Just his injuries go against him. But I explained the players when I was doing it, and I think that's a fair ranking.